Here we go again, comparing and contrasting two daily trainers and deciding which one is the better choice. Whether it be the HOKA One One Mach 5 or the Nike React Infinity Run Flyknit 3. Let's compare and contrast and let's talk about it. So before we get into the video, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're already subscribed and watch this content. Thanks so much, love you guys a lot. I will have the specs for both shoes respectively up here associated with each one, and we're going to begin with the newer shoe, of course. So in this particular case, the HOKA One One Mach 5. As you've probably seen a couple times on this channel, I really do enjoy this shoe overall, but compared to the Infinity React or React Infinity, we're going to have to see where the shoe shines and where it doesn't. So in this particular case, my Mach 5 weighs about 8 ounces with about a heel of about 29 millimeters and then 24 millimeters in the forefoot, giving this about a 5 millimeter offset in the general spec direction. Whereas in the React Infinity Run Flyknit, we've got a bit of a contrast, I guess you could say. This shoe for me, an 8.5, weighs about 10.4, 10.5 ounces with a heel of about 34 millimeters and about a forefoot of 26, giving it about an 8 millimeter offset. So from a standpoint of stack height, the React Infinity has a little bit more going on and has a slight lean more towards this forefoot strike as a natural direction, being 8 millimeters, and it has a good training equivalency to being like your daily trainer for the, in this case, like Vaporfly Next Percent 2 or just the regular Next Percent, just because of the stack height specs. Now, when we talk about the Mach 5, this being a 5 millimeter offset leans it more towards being a midfoot striking shoe, despite the fact that when I run with it, I do try to lean for that forefoot strike with kind of like that toe off area regardless. And overall, it seems to be working just fine in that direction of the shoe. And like when it comes to racing and something like the Carbon X, I think the Mach 5 has a pretty good similarity when it comes to that in terms of being like a decent training partner. So those are the general specs between both shoes. Let's talk about uppers. So in the Mach 5 area here, it's a very simple upper. Again, very breathable compared to a lot of daily trainers that exist in the market today. I do like the idea of having a gusseted tongue so it wraps around your ankle in a nice way. It's very minimalist, not a whole lot of material there to worry about, so you don't have like additional cushion you need to play around with or retie the shoe accordingly. In the heel, of course, we got a nice heel cup going on. We have some good stability in the heel where there's like some kind of maybe additional heel protection just surrounding inside the shoe, so you're not going to have any sort of heel slip or anything like that going on from at least my personal experience with the Mach 5. Now, working into some of the foams here, of course, we do have this ProFly Plus, which is supposedly the upgrade to the regular ProFly. And the only major thing I was able to find on it is that it's got a little bit more squish and a little bit more bounce than the ProFly Plus, which we would hope for. So that's what's going on with the ProFly Plus. And the other thing to note, if we were to compare it to like the Mach 4, is that there's more material here in the heel that kind of spreads a little bit wider. So gives a little bit more surface area for the heel, also as it supports the bottom foam here, which is the EVA foam of the shoe. There's no rubber on this outsole whatsoever as far as I'm concerned. I don't really like to see anything that's kind of hiding in the background. It is just the the foam for the most part, so that's the only thing between you and the ground in this particular case. Now, when we looked at the React Infinity Run Flyknit, this upper, when I was initially running with it, was fairly breathable, but comparatively speaking to like other shoes that I've been running with, it definitely feels a lot woolier and has a much more of like a coating on the shoe, which I guess keeps your foot warm if you're running on colder days. But during the summer when you're running and it's like 80 and humid like I have out here, you want something that breathes a little bit better, and the only real way to counteract that in most cases is if the shoe is like in this white color scheme where at least there's some kind of like reflexive abilities with the coating of the shoe. So that's just something worth noting. It's not as breathable as we would like it, but there is still comfort in the upper regardless. Now, when we look at the tongue, it's not really gusseted. It's just, a straight along tongue, which again, you do kind of have to readjust it depending on how your foot feels, but it still does its job pretty well. It's got a bit of plush to it, a bit of protection, so the shoelaces don't get too tight on your foot in those certain areas. and create like pressure points and whatnot. So I like that so far. It's not a big complaint. It's just something I'm kind of more conscious of at the end of the day. In our heel area, we do have this external heel guard, heel cup area, which is holding on very well. So no heel slips whatsoever. Definitely, I would rate it as sturdier than the Mach 5s, but I don't know in terms of comfort if I like it as much. Just something to kind of wait and see as we go along and I start playing around with the Mach 5 a little bit more. Now, in terms of the midsole, outsole, and the rubber on the bottom of the shoe, it is just using React foam all the way across, which scalable to the ProFly is it's not as soft. It's supposed to be more responsive. It's supposed to be a little bit more protective than something like the ProFly, which in this case, the shoe is marketed more for like your recovery runs, not necessarily as a speed trainer. So the shoe's utility in this particular instance is to be a little bit easier as like a slower daily trainer, something that is injury preventative, which if that's such a thing while running, that's pretty sick. But yeah, that's kind of realistically what's going on here, is that if you're looking for some speed, comparatively speaking, the React might not be your first choice. It's not to say you can't run fast in this shoe. It's just I would consider some other Nike shoes in this family before looking at the React and thinking to myself, that's my tempo, speed, daily trainer or everyday racer shoe. Another thing worth noting about the shoe is that here in the bottom, the outsole section, there is some rubber padding around the shoe. It doesn't have nearly as much grip as like other Nike shoes on the market because it doesn't have too many lugs, I guess you can say, but there is a rubber plating that is protecting the React foam in, I think, key points. So there obviously isn't a whole lot of protection here on the inside of the shoe, and you can see it's kind of pushing into the React. There's a little bit here on this outside area. As you can see, I've kind of chipped away at it a little bit, but my key points are usually this outside forefoot area. And as I can see here, not too much wear and tear yet. After I am like about 150, almost 200 plus miles in this shoe. The rubber is holding for the most part, so it protects the foam and gives the shoe a bit of longevity in my personal experience. So that's kind of where I would go with the general specs of both shoes. Now the question is utility-wise. So I kind of went into the React utility in the case that this is marketed more as like a recovery shoe to go for your easier runs, your slower pace runs. Maybe if you're like on a, an everyday all level group run, this would be like the shoe I would recommend personally, as just taking it easy, nothing too crazy, and just having a good time overall. Now, if you're looking for a daily trainer with a little bit more speed, I would say a little bit more diversity in terms of what kind of style run you can do. Like if you want to go have like a track workout, if you want to go a little bit faster, if you want to, I say take a run that's not nearly as long, maybe a shorter pace or a shorter distance per se, for less of an endurance sport, but more for like a mid-distance kind of run with some quality. I'd say the Mach 5 is definitely the direction you would like to go into. It's not to say you can't do a long run in the Mach 5. In fact, I would like to try it and see how it feels and how like the shoe fatigues in terms of like the ProFly and whatnot. But what I'm alluding to is that if you want like an easy recovery, short to long run type of quality run, the React might be the direction you'd like to go into. And I've tried it for runs that have been like 10 plus miles long, and my legs feel great after those runs. Like going slow, taking it easy, running in the React. I can see why people like the React Infinity for those particular reasons. Now, again, it is too soon for me to say that running 10 miles in like the Mach 5 will be a similar experience, because I don't know how ProFly Plus and the EVA are going to fatigue over time while you're running. So external to you, I'm saying like, what's the shoe gonna do after a certain amount of distance? So too soon to tell. We're gonna see what happens on that front, but those are some of the major points I think I would throw around with both shoes. Now, I guess the last point is probably pricing. I believe the React Infinity is running about $140 to $160 right now, USD. So it's kind of in that like typical Nike road running shoe range, which again, if you think that's too expensive for a recovery shoe, or if you don't have like that budgeting to have like a different shoe for every style run, then maybe it's worth leaning away from the React Infinity and maybe considering at least the first rendition of the React Infinity. So not even the second one. I didn't like the second one at all. the first React Infinity run is like lighter by almost half an ounce, has less material, and will give you the same function for probably 30 to 40% less of this price. So that could be something worth considering if you're in that particular niche of looking for a recovery shoe that weighs less and you're not willing to penny pinch on something with a little bit more, I guess, extra parts to the shoe. Whereas the Mach 5, I believe this shoe is running at about $140 the last time I bought it. And that's a really good price range for this type of quality shoe. But there's one major consideration, I've talked about this multiple times now, is this EVA foam, without any like rubber padding or anything, has me worried about its lifespan. Because like I'm about 10 plus miles into this run, and I've really worn out some of these lugs a lot. So it's very likely the shoe might not last me more than 250 to like 200 plus miles. Too soon to tell. It's going to be something I'm going to be monitoring for a long period of time. Whereas the React Infinity, I know the first rendition of the shoe lasted me about 350 plus miles before I even had to consider upgrading into like a Pegasus 37 back in 2020. And if we're 150 miles into this shoe and the only real wear and tear is like in my forefoot and like this particular area here on the side, and the rest is holding fairly well without really damaging the React or cutting into weird places of the shoe, I feel good about the lifespan of the React Infinity. So the question you're probably gonna have to weigh against yourself here is, do you want longevity, recovery, and, you know, slower pace runs, or do you want something fast, a little bit more, I guess, dynamic in terms of what workouts you want to do, but do you want the lifespan of the shoe to be less? So that's, I think, where we're sitting in terms of the apples and oranges debate here with the React Infinity and the Mach 5. If I had to personally choose between both shoes, I would honestly keep both in my lineup because of their respective utilities. Like, again, I like running enough where I would keep both shoes to basically have that recovery run, that group run kind of shoe for my easier days after like a hard track session or a long run that has some like intervals in it. And then I would like that everyday speed trainer in my lineup that doesn't necessarily have a carbon plate but is soft, comfortable, and can still kick for the next day run or next workout that I'm doing that particular day. So I think that's where I stand with these two shoes in particular. So if you have like, you know, an agreement on the assessments, or you disagree, or you have different experiences with both shoes, let me know in the comments below. And then of course, tell me which one you like better between the two as well. So I think I'll end the video here. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.